Hi there, welcome to my barn. This is Catherine Corona. I have a light shining down here. And I'm talking about the spiritual life, spirituality in everyday life. And here with my horses, spirituality in everyday life, and how you can align yourself with the divine spirit that is within everyone, and how aligning yourself, attuning yourself with the divine spirit brings you the life, it fulfills your destiny and brings you the life you may have always dreamed of. So when I was a kid in grade school, I had a very best friend. Her name was Anne, and she was very attuned to spirituality as a child. It was just what she aligned with, attuned with, was interested in. She addressed philosophical ideas, heaven and hell, who is God, how do we know God, at 10 years old. And we'd have these very long conversations on a particular corner where she would turn to go to her house down to the south, and I would turn to the north or east to go to my house. But we would stand there for an hour and a half, all winter, summer, didn't matter the weather. We would stand there and talk about these philosophical ideas. And at a very young age, she went to something called her parents were really open to her exploring these things. And she went to something called she was a Methodist, but the Ecumenical Institute that supported her on exploring these spiritual things. And we would have these long discussions. And so one day she came, we also at 15, so this went on for years. And for one day at 15, we were working at a short order cooks in like a fast food-ish restaurant, although you could have tables and chairs in it, but it was called Lums. And I came in and she said, all the things we've been talking about, I know the answer. And I said, well, what's the answer? I want to know the answer. And she said, well, I have a really bad headache. I need to go home now, but the next time I see you, I'll tell you what I've come across, what I've learned. And I never saw her again. She got spinal meningitis and died 3 days later. And later in life, I thought, well, whatever she came here to learn, she learned, and she was gone. She was out. She was gone. And that was that. But in my life, I think I've been a reluctancy to the spiritual life, but it just came to me everywhere for 2 or 3 years. Wherever I moved, I lived next to a spiritual teacher of some kind. So when I lived in the mountains on a ranch, and I lived in a little 2-room apartment above a barn, the big ranch house, these Lakota people moved in. And then they moved out, and people that followed Sufis, Rashad Field, moved in. And I didn't know anything about it. I was raised Catholic, and they were so different. And yet I could feel the vibe, and I liked it. And it made me I was studying science, so hard science, so spirituality, and this movement in the 70s of spirituality was definitely new to me, and I thought it was strange and a little weird, but there it was in my backyard. Then I moved from there, and I lived next to the president of the Theosophical Society, which what I would say is an esoteric Christianity. And we would have these, she'd invite me over for tea and goat milk, and we would have these long, long discussions. And she taught me about what the Mass was and what all its parts were and what they were for, and how we could attune to divinity through the Catholic Mass. And then I moved from there, and I moved next to a Lutheran minister on one side and a Presbyterian minister on the other side. And so, they say when the student's ready, the teacher will come. I didn't go out looking. It all just was next door to me. So I guess I was ready, and the teacher came. And I think there's a time with every human, every spiritual being that takes on a human existence, embodies in a physical form, where we go, there's more to this. There's more. I want to pull back the curtain and see what's behind all this. There's more than the physical reality that I'm looking at. I want to know this. Is there a spiritual reality? And we start asking ourselves questions like, the simple but difficult. What's the meaning of life? What am I doing here? What's my purpose? How do I make the best of this? For me, asking, how do I not squander my life? I somehow knew it was a gift. How do I become the best person I want to be? And some of us start asking those questions. We start to wake up to our divinity, our eternality, what is eternal about us. We start to wake up and start considering these questions that are beyond our everyday, going to work, raising a family, everyday ordinary life. And yet life is ordinary. As spiritually awake as you may be, life is ordinary. If you ever have watched or talked or seen on YouTube or somewhere the Dalai Lama, he just seems ordinary, and yet we know he's extraordinary, and has done great things for this world, for his people, and beyond his Tibetan people. So life as a spirit, knowing and waking up to who you are as a spiritual being, is also an extraordinary life, a remarkable life, and a life that brings the fulfillment of your soul, your spirit, your destiny. And when the hard challenges of life come your way, it brings the ability, the strength, and the understanding, the altitude, the ability to look at what's happening from a higher perspective, a higher altitude, and see the challenges and things that come in your life for what they are. The lessons of life to learn and grow, expand, and then share it and serve in this life, in this body, in this world. So that's all for today. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.